Hello everybody, this is Some Guy Rank Stuff, and well, I've tackled some raids in World of Warcraft before, but tonight I'm going to try to rank the final bosses of different raids in World of Warcraft. So this was made by underscore Keeb0 or Kibo, whatever it is, just to give him credit. So anyway, I'm not really this huge raider. I mean, I used to do a couple of raids back in like Burn Crusade, a little bit of Lich King, and a tiny bit of Cataclysm. But I haven't been raiding that much since then. I haven't like done the raids in Raid Finder at least ever since Dragon Soul. So I haven't like fought these bosses, but you know, I know a little lore behind some of them. Some of them I don't, and some of them here I might not even recognize as easily, to be honest. But first of all, we see, of course, this is Ragnaros. Final boss of both Molten Core in Classic or Vanilla WoW, and of course the Firelands in Cataclysm. Definitely a well-remembered boss, and I think, yeah, like based on both encounters, at least an 8 here, because very memorable, great appearance. I'm going to rank these based on. Oh, I actually see now this is like the Molten Core version. This is the Firelands version, of course. So a little bit different versions of these, but yeah, okay. So I mean, I didn't really do Molten Core back in Vanilla, even though I actually played World of Warcraft back then. I remember reaching level 60 just about a month before Burning Crusade came out, so I didn't really get into raiding back then. But just based on the lore and appearance, not much on abilities, because I haven't really had the real fighting experience against Ragnaros. I think it's still at least an A tier. When it comes to the Lich King, I think, well, I can't really say that it's not anything less than S tier. I mean, lore wise, probably just the best raid boss in the entire series. Uh, Deep backstory if you played Warcraft 3. Even if you just played through Wrath of the Lich King, you see the Lich King through the Wrath Gate. Like everything about the northern continent of Northrend. Well, not everything, of course. There are things there from before Arthas became the Lich King, but there's just so much behind him, lore wise. The fight is great. It was really difficult, from what I understand, when it was like what should I say? Just really new. Uh, I did raid. I did raid Lich, Ice Crown Citadel at some point during Lich King, but I think it was towards the end of the expansion. So people had figured out the bosses, but I remember hearing that it was really difficult at first. So in so many ways, it's an S tier. Amazing boss. I can't say that I recognize this boss. It might be the Bastion of Twilight. No, wait. I mean, didn't I see Cho'Gall here somewhere? Yeah, here. Even though Sinestra was like the heroic final boss. This is. I guess this might be Halion, like the final boss of the what was it again? The one in Wormrest Temple that came after the Lich King patch, like the Ice Crown Citadel. Halion, I think Halion. What? Sorry, I'm not quite 100% here. But I think that's it from the Ruby Sanctum. That's it. The Ruby Sanctum. Fun boss. Not really something I got into lore-wise, but definitely a fun battle, I think. So this is Nefarian from Blackwing Descent. I did raid Blackwing Descent back in the day, but I never reached um, Nefarian, unfortunately. But I think it's at least a curious encounter in the way that you have both Nefarian and Onyxia kind of revived. If I At least one of them was kind of revived, which was surprising and kind of cool. Somewhat of a fan service, but yeah, I think it's at least a B, a B tier. Maybe the Blackwing Lair battle is better. Cho'Gall from Bastion of Twilight. Um, I don't remember much about this fight. Cho'Gall was a huge villain, from what I understand. I guess he wasn't really that apparent in Warcraft 3, but I think I've heard about him in Warcraft 2, maybe. I haven't played Warcraft 1 or 2, just to be clear about that. But I've heard like Cho'Gall being this great villain, kind of underappreciated, but maybe it's just because people don't really know much about him, or them, should I say. And I'm one of them, to be honest, and unfortunately, that's just how it is. But I think I'll like B tier at least. So this next one, like I'm struggling here to find out what kind of order these bosses come in, because some are pretty. Yeah, these seem like somewhat expansion ordered. Like we had Lich King, Cataclysm, Vanilla, of course. We have Alakir here, which was a Cataclysm boss as well. Actually, a kind of fun boss. One of the elemental lords, just like Ragnaros was, and maybe not A tier, but at least a B tier, I think. Yeah, maybe this is Sinestro. I guess so. I'm just struggling here to think like where. I don't know. Yeah, I should put him here. I definitely didn't do this boss as current content, so I can't say much about it. Firelands Ragnaros, I think, is maybe just as good as Molten Core Ragnaros. Yeah, not much more to say about that. So Deathwing was a super disappointment. I did do this raid boss through Raid Finder back in the day as well. Like when it was completely new. It was the first raid, I think, that came with Raid Finder. So from watching the trailers, seeing every player fight at the back of like on the back of Deathwing, I thought it looked amazing, but it was so boring. It just turned out to be something really dull. It sounded and looked really cool, but the battle itself was crap. And you know, it's too bad, because I really think Deathwing was a great villain. He had this amazing presence during Cataclysm. You could be in a zone, just doing quests as usual, and all of a sudden he would just appear. The whole atmosphere would change. He would breathe fire into the land you're standing in. I thought it was amazing. There's a lot of things about Cataclysm that I really enjoyed, and I kind of disagree with a lot of people about the general expansion. But the raid Dragon Soul and the final boss of Deathwing, it wasn't good, I have to admit. So, um, actually, D tier. Unfortunately, I wish it was better, but it wasn't. So this is the boss of Mogushal Waltz, I think. I can't really remember much about it. Like current content, I mean, Raid Finder should count, but since if this is Sinestro, I think it's. Let me just look it up quick here on, on another computer. just to see if I'm right about this. Sinestro, he was like a heroic boss, so of course yeah, that's in. Uh, so I never got to fight in the actual uh, expansion, which makes sense since it's heroic, and I just did Raid Finder back in those days. No wait, no, of course he wasn't part of that. Either way, I just never did heroic at least. So I did it at a later point, but I have fought some of these other bosses during, um, like as current content, also in Raid Finder, which I think should count in some way. So I guess this is the Heart of Fear final boss. Can't remember much about it either. See it here at max. So I guess this is. Wait a minute. This seems a bit. No, of course you have both Sinestra and Cho'Gall, which makes sense. Just like both Lei Shen and don't remember. Wait, Raden. Not sure. But this is another heroic boss. Like, yeah, I think Raden, maybe Raden. I'll just have to look it up. Is that his name? Yeah, okay, so Raden, yeah. So I guess this is the Terrace of Endless Spring, that kind of boss. You know, the Shah in general being like this remnants or what should I call it of Yasharash, the one of the old gods, was actually kind of cool to see like this split into many other both like outdoor bosses, dungeon bosses, maybe at least raid bosses. Kind of cool to have like an old god like that. So B tier, I think, for me. Lei Shen, at least an A tier. New villain, but also an interesting villain. You kind of like learn about the Mogu pretty early on, I think, and then having this huge mortal, almost like a mortal god, being behind all this in a later expansion, in a really great raid, by the way. Throne of Thunder was great. The Isle of Thunder was great. I think it was a really cool final boss. Because yeah, I think that was the Throne of Thunder, wasn't it? I think so. Kind of intriguing to have like this extra final boss being like this Titan Keeper, I think. I might be wrong about some of these lore things, and I apologize if I am. I like to try to learn about it, but there are some things I just enjoy because, like, the whole Warcraft universe is just so incredibly huge and deep. It's hard for me to pay attention to it all, but I still think it's amazing. Garrosh Hellscream, I think, is an S tier, to be honest. You have those things like Garrosh did nothing wrong and everything. I disliked Garrosh, but there are some points and things that I both understand and kind of agree with him on. But he did turn evil, he did things that weren't good, and I think it was really cool how to make, actually how they made one of the faction leaders kind of turn evil for both factions. Of course, the Alliance would like to kill off Garrosh in some way, but even the Horde, they made him turn against the real Horde. That was a bold move and really cool, I think. So even though I personally was against Garrosh, I appreciate how he was as a villain, as a character, and as a boss. So we're into Warlords of Draenor, and this is, I'm guessing, the High Mall boss. It's kind of like these other two here. Blackhand, he's maybe even S tier. I mean, people loved. Jeez, what's his name again? The second raid in Lords of Draenor. Blackrock Foundry, of course. And Black Hand. You know, we had. I'm trying to think of how. If we ever saw Black Hand in the original universe or timeline or whatever, but even still, him being like this one huge villain in the Warlords of Draenor expansion was great. He was a great villain. He's at least one of those warlords who actually went through the original plans. It felt like, I mean, starting off when we heard about the Warlords of Draenor expansion, it kind of felt like all of these warlords would play a huge deal in the expansion. But then, like, Ner'zhul ended up being like a dungeon boss, Kargath Bladefist being this, you know, the first raid boss in the first raid, which was in, you know, High Mall. Really disappointing. And like Kilrog, was he even a boss in Hellfire Citadel? I can't remember actually. And then, you know, the Legion turned out to be kind of behind it all, well, mostly because of Gul'dan, of course. But I kind of feel like, yeah, and of course Grom not being the final boss after all, I kind of feel like Black Hand was the, like, of course we had Gul'dan, he was pulling the strings in so many things, but didn't end up being like a real boss during the expansion. But Black Hand was like the most notable warlord in that expansion, so I think he's an S tier, to be honest. Archimonde in Hellfire Citadel, kind of came out of nowhere. So in some ways, kind of fan servicey. It was cool. I thought it was cool to see him myself, but it wasn't that I wanted from the expansion. Like, I'm not a huge old Warcraft lore nerd, or you know, like this huge orc fan, but I just didn't like how they changed the direction during the expansion that it felt like. So he's not higher up than this, I think. So Nefarian from Blackwing Lair, it's a cool fight, I think. But I didn't do it as current content. But I like some things. Sinestra is a boss that I just didn't play, don't know much about in any way. But like Nefarian, I do know something about, so I feel like I can at least rank him in B tier, to be honest. Savius is actually, to me, an A tier, I think. Legion was an expansion I just loved. Savius was like this villain that I had heard about for so long, like the Satyrs against the Night Elves. And then we finally have like the Emerald Nightmare. I don't like the design of him being like this abomination kind of, you know, but still a really cool boss, cool encounter. Boring to farm, but cool encounter either way. Then we have Hell Yeah. Hell Yeah. I just love the achievement name for collecting an appearance from this raid. Can I get a Hell Yeah? Which is, it's just funny to me. The boss itself, I don't know. It's not really that special, I think. Gul'dan, however, maybe mostly like, okay, so he built up this stuff through the Warlords of Draenor expansion. I can speak, sorry. And then pulled the strings through to Legion. I gotta admit, the fight itself is fun. He is a good villain. We've seen it in Warcraft 3 as well. Mostly just flashbacks, or you know, just reading some tracks or hints or whatever from his past. But man, like I love the ending of the Nighthold. Seeing Illidan's wings just extend behind his back as the Burning Crusade music is playing. Oh man, it's like goosebump worthy. It's amazing. So we have Tumal Sargeras, Kil'jaeden here. I honestly don't remember much about this fight, but like Kil'jaeden, great boss counter, should be anyway. Yeah, I mean, it's freaking Kil'jaeden. I'll get back to him later here. So then we have Onyxia from Vanilla. Yeah, I think I'll put her in 8 here. People really like remember her fondly. It was fun to have her back in Wrath of the Lich King, which I can see here. I'll put it here. But like having this dungeon, like the only dungeon I think, or only raid in the Vanilla WoW, to have just this one boss is kind of unique. And of course, her being like a Black Dragonflight, the sister of Nefarian, who's... Oh, really? Didn't realize I placed them in like each their own. Huh. I should maybe, like, if I have Vanilla Onyx here, maybe Nefarian as well. Then we have Argus from Antorus. The Burning Throne, is that it? I just kind of embarrassed, but I've been drinking tonight, so that's my excuse. It's a World Soul, isn't it? Should be an 8 tier. Then we have Gahun. Kind of intriguing to have this like kind of a new old god we didn't know about. But I really don't like the design of it. Yeah, no, it goes here. Cthulhu. Never really played as current content, of course. Super difficult from what I've heard when it first came out. Got a little nerfed, but still challenging. A cool old god for sure. Just don't have experienced it in the proper way, but I still think the lore behind it is cool. Then we have Jaina from Atal-Dazar, yeah, something like that. The Battle for Dazara lore, maybe. I might be misremembering the names here. It's kind of difficult with Battle for Azeroth. The troll names like Zuldazar and everything. I easily forget those names. Kind of cool to have. It's kind of similar to Siege of Orgrimmar, having faction leaders and everything. But you actually play as different factions at times, I think. But having Jaina Pranmore as a boss is really cool. Just looking at the rest now, I guess. Aren't we missing a couple of bosses here? I mean, I would guess that this is Ashara. Doesn't look like her, but I mean, we don't have Ny'alotha boss here, like N'Zoth. I can't, like, is this really Ashara? I gotta say, I haven't actually been through all of the Eternal Palace, so I'll put it here. And the same with Ny'alotha, so it isn't too bad. I just realized that this doesn't stretch further than Battle for Azeroth, but it's okay because, well, I did do the Raid Finder from Shadowlands and some of Dragonflight so far. Just haven't done Aberrus or the newest one in the Emerald Dream thing. So I'll just put it here. So then we have Kel'Thuzad from Vanilla Original Naxxramas. I wish I had played it. I can't really say much about it. But when it comes to, like, I love Kel'Thuzad as like a lore character, a villain even. But actual battle isn't that great. I would have placed Kel'Thuzad in like S tier if the battle was better. But unfortunately, I think it's kind of boring. I did do the Wrath version for real back in the day, but I don't think he belongs in the top tier. Unfortunately, I want to, but I gotta try to stay critical in some ways, and I don't think the battle is that fun, to be honest. Archimonde from Battle for Mount Hyjal. The actual raid kind of sucks. The actual battle isn't too bad. This is from the scenario of Warcraft, or the campaign in Warcraft 3, which is cool. And if I just look at the final battle in Isolation, I think it's a really good battle, and definitely more memorable Archimonde fight than. Didn't I just? Yeah, of course, there is. Yeah, definitely better than the Hellfire Citadel one. So Gruul is. No, wait. Oh, no, sorry. That's. I was just about to question, where is Prince Malchezaar? This is Prince Malchezaar. This is Archimonde. So the Prince, I was just starting to think when I saw Gruul here, where's the final boss of Karazhan? This is, of course, him. He isn't as good. It's an interesting battle with how he plays. Well, makes every character fall down to like 1 health. That's the part I really remember about him. But other than that, not that much. But a B tier, still a fine one. Here's Archimonde, so he goes into A tier. I'm sorry about that. Then we have Gruul. Okay, so Gruul's lair. Gruul. Didn't know much about him, but he's like a dragon. What's their called? Like nickname again? Like dragon killers, dragon. The Grons are like these dragon killers, and even though I hated Blade's Edge Mountains, the zone itself, like visually, with having like all these dragons on the spikes there, is actually a really cool thing. Oh, sorry. And well, Gruul is like the huge Gron leader, so yeah, I'll write a B tier. Then we have Magtheridon, this huge pit lord. I mean, Manroth is like this really memorable pit lord in the lore, but I wish I knew kind of more about Magtheridon, but he goes in here. So Lady Vashj and Kel'Thuz are at least A tier, both of them. Great characters in Warcraft 3. I gotta admit that I played World of Warcraft before the Warcraft games, at least before I went through all the campaigns, and I had played at least through most of Burning Crusade before I played Warcraft 3, and just seeing Kel'Thuz and Lady Vashj appear in Warcraft 3 the way they did made everything make sense to me, which was great. Like, these are huge characters. They might even they kind of have this advantage being in the earlier expansions, and also this RTS games, or at least one of the games. So they seem more important in several ways. And they are interesting characters. I think maybe I'll put them both up here. And Illidan, of course, has to join them up here. Illidan is, what should I say? If you see Naruto, he's kind of like Itachi, in some ways. Well, sorry if you haven't seen Naruto. Spoiler alert, of course. But like being this one who's fighting for the greater good, but kind of appearing as a villain. But like Illidan is legendary in so many ways. Even if he was like a full villain, he's still so cool he'd get away with it. It's kind of like Arthas. People love Arthas, but Illidan too is so cool. The design of him, the story behind him, um, it's so great. So Kill Jaden from the Sunwell Plateau is actually, I think it's, well, I have to say again, I don't remember much about him from Tomb of Sargeras, but seeing him as a villain in Warcraft 3, and he's just, the battle itself, how he's about to appear from the Sunwell, but we like fight and push him back, I guess, into the Twisting Nether, maybe. It's actually a really cool premise. And I think it should actually be up there in the S tier. Then we have Sartharion from the Obsidian Sanctum from Lich King. Actually, this I do think I like the Obsidian Sanctum. Just love how you can. It's like this one single boss raid, but you can kind of modify the difficulty by either eliminating the other dragons before you attack Sartharion, or you can take on all of them at once, and the loot will modify based on how many other ads you take on. It's not really A tier, but it's, and maybe not underappreciated, but I kind of feel like it's a raid that deserves more praise than it's gotten. I think people enjoyed it more than people know, so to speak. Malagos is like he was the dragon aspect of the blue dragon fight. I didn't know at the time, but in recent times I've learned more about him. Maybe especially during the Dragonfight expansion. So I think maybe he belongs in A tier because of that. So Yogg Saron is probably, and to most people I think, the most memorable encounter with an old god. Maybe to me as well. I mentioned that I haven't faced Zoth, and when it comes to Yasharash, I don't know much about it, but it is a really interesting fight, and it's at least an A tier. So Algalon is maybe the same. I think personally I would rank Yogg Saron higher, just so we know that. But I'll put him in the same tier. Then we have Anubarak, which is a boss that he could have been S tier, but they really messed him up. This important lore character who aligned himself with Arthas during the Warcraft 3 campaign, it was so disappointing to see him being this final boss in like level 73 dungeon in Ajol Narub. Like a character of this importance from Northrend, it's absurd that he was like a low level dungeon boss. They did kind of redeem him a little bit by making him the final boss in the trial. No, the trial of the Crusader. That's I was kind of confused about which word was changed between the dungeon and the raid. It's Trial of the Champion and Trial of the Crusader. I was happy to see him again, being the final boss in the Trial of the Crusader, but it still didn't really give them this like characterization that he deserved in an expansion like this. I really hoped for more. He could have been S tier, kind of like Kel'Thuzad if he like if the battle was more fun. That's like the only thing, but lore wise, that's what puts Anubarak down in A tier, which is a shame. So this is how I rank these World of Warcraft and raid and boss or bosses in this tier list. So at the bottom, I haven't played that much. I think it doesn't look like Ashara, but I guess since Ashara isn't here in other form, then we have Sinestra. I haven't really played. Deathwing, I think maybe a lot of people would agree with that. C tier, maybe people would disagree, but that's like one of the things that I like from my experience. I would put it like this. I can't even remember the names of the bosses in Mogashan Vaults or Heart of Fear or even Highmaul. Then we have Helya and Gahun. Then Halion, I think it's Halion at least. Nefarian and Blackwing Descent. Cho'Gall, Alakir, the boss of Terrace of Endless Spring, I think, and we have Archimonde in Hellfire Citadel, we have Kil'jaeden in Tomb of Sargeras, we have Onyxia in Wrath of the Lich King, Cthulhu, Prince Malchezaar, Gruul in Gruul's Lair, Magtheridon and Sartharion in B tier. In A tier we have both Ragnaros encounters from Molten Core and Firelands. We have Lei Shen, Raden, we have Xavius, we have Vanilla Onyxia, we have Vanilla Nefarian, we have almost said Antares, Argus, we have Jaina Proudmoore, both versions of Kel'Thuzad, we have Archimonde and Mount Hyjal, we have Malygos, we have Yogg-Saron, Algalon, and Anubarak. Then in S tier, we'll start from the bottom. This isn't really put in order, but still we have Kil'jaeden from Sunwell Plateau, we have Illidan from Black Temple, we have Lady Vashj from what's it called again? Coilfang Reservoir. That's not the name of the raid. I can't think of it. We have Kel'Thas from the Eye, or Tempest Keep. We have Gul'dan from the Nighthold. We have Blackhand from Blackrock Foundry. We have Garrosh Hellscream from Siege of Orgrimmar. And of course, Arthas the Lich King from Icecrown Citadel. That's it. Just still trying to think of the name of... Serpent Shrine Cavern, of course, Lady Vashj. So just please remember that this is one man's opinion. I'm either right or wrong. This is just my opinion and my experience with these bosses. But I hope you enjoyed the list. And of course, leave me some feedback if you got some. I'm always willing to listen to how I can make these videos better. But still, thank you for watching. Hope you had fun, and I hope to see you next time as well.